All right. So as I said, DFSS has over 20 RFPs in this CDGA process. So we are going to spend probably the first 15, 20 minutes going over them. And at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. You can definitely put your questions in the chat. The GBV team members are here, so they are either going to be able to answer your questions in the chat or alert me that I can answer as we go. Any questions so far? Okay, silence is golden. Just some key things that we wanted you to know about our specific GBV RFPs. As you know, or may not know, the division has it has actually 11 programs, but there are only 5 RFPs in this CDGA process. Some of our RFPs have already been issued and some are going to be issued later this year, and we'll get to that in a minute. The reason why we only put 5 of our programs in this RFP is because there is federal funding attached to them, Community Development Block Grant, and this is the process on issuing out RFPs that are funded with those resources. The programs that we're seeking to fund here are part of enhancing survivor safety and getting legal protections or remedies. As we'll go through them, you'll understand more. I cannot stress enough that all delegates that are receiving funds now, if you are receiving funds now, need to reapply in this process. For city funds, we have regulations and rules that say we have to procure services on an interval level or cycle. And so all of our division contracts will be ending at the end of this year, and therefore all agencies have to apply for their programs for the upcoming year. Then some of the RFPs that won't see here that have already been issued in 2024 for 25-26 services are, I'm sorry, it's the reverse. The RFPs that you won't see here that we haven't issued yet, please don't worry about those. Those are for the Emergency Financial Assistance Program, Prevention, and the Rapid Rehousing Coordinator. Those will be going out this year for contracts that begin January 1. And the RFPs finally that we did release previously or will have contracts, renewed contracts in 2026 are the DV Coordinated Response in Healthcare Setting, the GBV Hotel Program, and the GBV Training Program. Therefore, this year you will not see RFPs for those being released because we have agencies awarded and funded for 25 and 26. But like I said, you will be seeing release outside of the CDGA process for GBV Emergency Financial Assistance, GBV Prevention, and GBV Rapid Rehousing. Here is a summary of the 5 RFPs that you'll find in the CDGA process, starting with legal services, which is to provide actual legal representation and support to survivors in all court systems, not just the domestic violence courthouse. The MDT, multidisciplinary team services, that is for specific CPD districts that you can find in the RFP to receive a referral from CPD and conduct referrals. Supervised visitation and safe exchange services, those are court ordered out of the DV courthouse. RIA, resource and information advocates at, again, the DV courthouse, and counseling and advocacy services for survivors of gender-based violence. I'm going to now, before we get into more details on each of the 5 RFPs, here are some key things you need to know that is pretty common or common amongst all 5 RFPs. Like I said again, if you are currently receiving funding for these programs or a version of these programs, or if you are a new delegate, you have to apply during this process and you have to apply in the iSupplier system. The OBM had conducted sessions on the iSupplier system. And you should probably get your iSupplier profiles ready and current. For new delegates, I cannot stress enough to go ahead and start your iSupplier profile today, regardless of whether you've decided to apply or not apply. It takes quite some time to complete your iSupplier profile, and you'll need documents to attach and things like that. So I highly recommend you start that regardless of whether you actually have the green light to go. The second thing is that the application itself is not open. You can see the narratives and read the RFPs, but the application itself in iSupplier does not open until 9 a.m. on April 1st, and it closes at noon on June 2nd. I stressed that it has to be submitted in the iSupplier system. And so you cannot apply outside of that system. Please don't email me like the day of or the day before about having issues with iSupplier. As you know, we recommend that everybody submit well in advance of the noon deadline. Failure to submit any application in the iSupplier system means that DFSS cannot issue you an award or cannot issue you a contract. And the reason is the procurement rules. If one agency fails to submit on time, failure to submit an application in the iSupplier system, we cannot reopen iSupplier for one applicant who didn't submit on time. You may have heard this already in the previous sessions, but these things do happen. And so legally, if we open the application for one or two, registrants that didn't complete an application, we have to open it for all. And OBM and DFSS are not going to do that. So please make sure that you apply early. I'm sure you may have heard in the iSupplier session that if you submit your application, but early and you want to change it, you can resubmit it, making those changes. The last save that you have and submit up until the due date is what DFSS will receive. All right. I don't want to be going into that too much, but these things do happen, and I don't want that to happen to anybody who's interested in applying. Another thing to know is that award notifications will not be made like within 30 days. Notifications will actually be made only when the City of Chicago passes their 2026 budget. As you know, we were delayed last year, so that may or may not happen this year, but be prepared that your award will not be made or will not be announced to you until after the city budget has been passed. All of the contracts are expected to begin on January 1. Now, we'll get into a little bit, or there may be some new agencies on the line who have questions. We will expect you to start on January 1, but we will not expect new programs or new initiatives to start out of the gate, and there may be some implementation time, and we realize that. So we encourage new applicants, new programs to apply. And then finally, the contract period will be for 3 years. So you will receive, if you're awarded, a contract that begins January 1 of 26 with renewals going all the way to 2028. And DFSS has the option to renew for 2029 and 2030. Oh my God. Okay, I'm sold. Those are DFSS options. You're going to budget period for a year. So you may have already understood that DFSS is probably not going to issue another application for these 5 programs no sooner than 2028 for 2029 programs.
There is a message in the chat. It says by Eleanor, apologies, as I know this was said, but I didn't catch it. Did you say these awards are federally funded?
So yeah, our GGBV portfolio includes about $2 million worth of community development block grant funds that we received in 2025 and we anticipate receiving in 2026. So these particular programs must go through the CDGA if we want to allocate any of that $2 million of funding to them. That was a good question. It doesn't impact any of your reporting. It's just how DGBV pools the money to award and fund its programs. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry about that beeping. That is people submitting messages in the other chats. Let me see if I can.
I don't hear beeping at all. So
okay, beautiful. I finally I had to sedate the dogs. I don't want you to be disturbed by all of these Teams messages that I'm getting. I was kidding about sedating the dogs. Okay, so now we're going to go into more detail on each of the 5. I'll try to be brief. I wanted to just go over a little bit that's unique or new in these programs that we have been funding for quite some time. So I just wanted you can obviously read the RFP in its totality. The draft RFP is out right now, April 1st. I think they're going to be posting the final RFP. There are not any significant changes to the books, but legal services. You can right now find it on the draft in between pages 97 and 111. It also has an RFP number. This RFP number, as you know, is really important when you go look for the RFP in iSupplier. So that is a good number to know. So yeah, you're applying for the correct program. The legal services for survivors of GBV. This program used to be simultaneously DV legal services, and then ARPA, we funded a ARPA GBV legal services program. These are now being consolidated into one program. So everybody that was funded under the DV or the existing portfolio and ARPA delegates, this is how you would apply for renewal funding. And obviously new agencies that are interested in providing legal services, this is you would apply for under this program. The ARPA contracts are also ending this year, as well as the DV legal services contracts. So everybody that wants to provide legal services or be funded to provide legal services must apply in this RFP. Also, one of the major things that we've done is we are adopting, if you will, the GBV legal services and the ARPA initiative, and therefore you must provide which type of GBV survivors you're going to be serving in your application. Also, that's a little bit unique is that applicants have to provide or subcontract legal representation by licensed attorneys or BGAs in immigration court. So in other words, if you are an agency that subcontracts with legal services or legal aids, you can apply as long as you're able to have either directly hire or subcontract with an attorney's a legal aid society. Applicant staff, this is standard across all of the RFPs that you'll hear, have to have, or their subcontractors have to have the certification criteria that we have listed in the chart in the RFP, whether that be 40-hour training for DV or other certifications to serve GBV survivors. And awardees will be required to enter survivor data into InfoNet, measure outcomes with other reporting processes that we do now, and collect survivor feedback. Just for new agencies on the line, entering information into InfoNet, DFSS has administrator rights. We can see aggregated information for your program, but we do not see client data. Okay. Did we address the question, Peg, for the two different legal services programs? You can come off mute if you'd like. Okay. Any other questions on legal services? No? Okay. You'll also have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. And we're going to provide our contact information if you have questions on that particular RFP going forward. The next program is the Multidisciplinary Team for Survivors of Domestic Violence. You can find this one on the book right now on pages 112 to 122. What's significant about this particular program is that applicants have to apply for specific CPD districts that are identified in the RFP. There are only certain MDT districts in the city of Chicago, and you have to select or provide which ones you are going to be serving. The staff must engage and consent with consenting survivors to connect them to services that are offered by your program, or they need to be referred to supportive services. Preference will be given to the applicants that have direct services within their program. The program must collaborate and work with the corresponding CPD district that you have selected. And you also have to work with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office as they hold the grant or the program that actually provides services under MDT. Applicants have to receive the referrals from CPD and conduct risk assessments. After the assessment, engagement is required for high risk within 24 hours, and the other ones can be after 24 hours. And all of your staff or subcontractors must meet the certification criteria or the training services that we outline in the RFP. Are there any questions on RIA? Give me just 1 second. I am going to go mute. I'm sorry for the interruption. Please give me just 1 second. I understand you can't hear it, but my computer is beeping every 3 seconds with questions. All the other breakout rooms are asking questions. I mean, I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but this is your chance. All right. Maybe I'm just doing a fantastic job going over these RFPs. All right. No questions on the MDT program. The next one is supervised visitation and safe exchange services. This can be found in the book on page 123 to 134. What's very unique about this program, number one, is that you have to have a court order requesting or going a referral to a supervised visitation and safe exchange center. That being said, the applicants must have a facility that meets best practice standards for SVSE, including in your RFP application. Not only do you have to include a floor plan that shows traffic flow, you also have to include your safety protocols to ensure that you are meeting the best practices under the guiding principles of SVSE. If you don't know what the guiding principles are, Department of Justice has regulation or a guidebook on how to provide supervised visitation and safe exchange services that we use to align with this program. The next thing is that the program applicant has to work with the court, meaning when you receive the court referral, and also the court expediter who is at the 555 West Harrison to receive referrals for services. You also have to, like I said, develop and keep current the security policies and protocols that you submit to DFSS, and we keep that on file. And then the applicant, again, has to have staff or subcontractors that meet the certification, the training criteria to serve GBV survivors. And the awardees will enter this data into InfoNet and measure outcomes through other reporting processes and collect surveys. I neglected to mention in MDT that because you are receiving the referral from CPD that comes with no name, that data is not entered into InfoNet, but we do have other reporting processes that you have to comply with. Any questions on MDT or SVSE? Program is the Resource Information Advocates. You can find this RFP on pages 135 and through 145 of the booklet. What's special about the RIA program is that you must submit a proposal that includes on-site services at the Cook County Domestic Violence Courthouse at 555 West Harrison. While virtual or off-site services are eligible, you still have to have a presence at the courthouse. You have to collaborate with all the RIA providers that are at the DV courthouse, as well as the legal advocacy providers or maybe legal service providers, and you have to provide services in English and Spanish to cover the RIA services at the courthouse daily. You have to offer survivors connection to a legal advocate or legal services if applicable, either through an agreement, or your own direct referral in your agency, as well as offer other supportive services, or at least at a minimum, the domestic violence hotline from the courthouse. And then also these, like I said, this staff or direct staff or the subcontractors has to meet the certification criteria that's outlined in the RFP. That was pretty simple. We're getting to the more complex one, and that is our final one, counseling and advocacy services for survivors of gender-based violence. Of the 5 RFPs, this RFP is probably gone a little bit further than the expansion that we saw in GBV Legal Services. This RFP or this program can be found on pages 146 through 158 of the RFP booklet. What's gone above and beyond the GBV Legal Services is not only are we expanding who can be served under this RFP, we also put in a special focus for youth and as a target population. Previously, this program was for only intimate partner violence and counseling for that. One of the things that changes is it can be anything under the IDVA, meaning there doesn't have to be an intimate relationship for you to provide services. And also you would have to provide in your application what types of gender-based violence you are going to be serving, whether that's domestic violence, sexual violence or assault, human trafficking, including labor trafficking or stalking. Like I said, we also included, though, that you can serve youth age 24 and under that have witnessed or experienced gender-based violence. This comes from a program that we had initiated with ARPA funds that was doing basically the same counseling and case management, but without the legal advocacy. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. And like I said, you have to state what target population, what type of GBV you're going to be offering. But the most significant thing is if you are going to be serving or if you are going to be submitting a proposal, you have to have either direct counseling case management services and legal advocacy services. If you don't have one directly that you can offer, you have to have a formal linkage agreement or formal MOU with another agency who can provide the other. So for example, I am an agency that has a site. I allow walk-ins, which is really a drop-in center. I offer basic services, but I also engage with clients and offer them counseling and case management. What I don't have is the legal advocacy component. Then I have to partner or subcontract or have an MOU with an agency that can provide legal advocacy services if they are needed, meaning you don't have to provide it to everyone, but you have it in your menu of services. Vice versa. Let's say you're a program who's providing legal advocates at the DV courthouse. You don't have that case management or counseling component. You either have to be able to provide it directly within your own agency, subcontract with it or for it in your application, or have or submit a copy of an MOU or linkage agreement, a formal linkage agreement that you are connected to an agency that can provide ongoing counseling or case management. Any questions on that so far? Okay. And then the last two bullets are, like, again, common. Your staff and your subcontractors must meet the certification criteria to serve GBV survivors. We would expect that all that information to be attached in your application. And awardees will be required to enter data into InfoNet here, measure outcomes with other reporting processes, and collect survivor feedback. We did have some agencies under the ARPA initiative that was not entering into InfoNet. You'll have time to scale up and enter data into InfoNet under this program. So we have two raised hands. I can just see SA. Who is SA?
I'm assuming that's me. Hi, I'm Sharmeen. I just wanted to ask, because you said that we're going to have to specifically talk about which GBV we're hitting. Can we hit multiple groups, or are we
yes.
like?
Oh yes,
Okay.
there's no limit.
Okay,
But
awesome. Thank
you have to serve one and show that you are capable in that and have the capacity to serve that population.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Eleanor?
Erica.
Oh, sorry. I just saw EV, so I thought it was Eleanor.
No problem. So I have a question. In terms of the clients and referrals, would this be a matter of our community relationships and how we get the clients, or the clients are referred to us, or would the clients be referred through another system, like maybe police officers, or
which are you talking about?
For the counseling, for the counseling and advocacy services.
So your agency doesn't have to work on a referral basis. We expect you to do outreach or receive referrals through your community partners. So you're doing intake and you're screening for gender-based violence, and those that screen in are eligible for the program. You're confusing, like, maybe referral, like there doesn't have to be any definitive referral. We would like you to work with all of the hotlines and receive referrals. Okay. That way, we would like you to work with your community partners, and we would like you to describe how you do that outreach and engagement in the application.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to stop guessing names. AM.
Hi, this is Anna Maitland over at Legal Aid Chicago with the Trafficking Survivors Assistance Project. Legal Aid Chicago is primarily attorneys, but we do also have a prominent social work team. Would social workers count as case management along with paralegals who manage sort of a more holistic array of case issues, or does it have to be somebody who is actually hired under the title of case manager?
So under the counseling and advocacy services, your social work would be counselors or case managers. We would consider that a program that does ongoing counseling or does legal advocacy for the client. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess we're trying to figure out if we would we be able to say that we have in agency both the ability to do case management and legal advocacy because we have both lawyers and social workers, or would we need to highlight that who we would refer out to because our social workers are not specifically titled case managers?
If they're not doing like the ongoing work, I think that your best option would be to apply under GBV Legal Services because that
Mhm.
support is eligible under there.
Okay. Thank you so
Meaning
much.
if you have like an LSW or LSW, working and getting what the client, but also the attorney is working with the client, that is GBV
Mhm.
Legal Services. You
Okay.
could apply under counseling and advocacy services, but you would have to overcome how you're just like if you're only getting referrals from your attorneys, you would have to overcome the engagement and community outreach,
Okay. Thank
which
you.
you might be able to do. I'm not saying you can't, but
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah. BJ, I think that's Hera.
Sorry, BJ, I didn't catch the letters. My name's Hera J. I'm from Beyond Legal Aid. Thank you so much for touching on these materials. I had a specific question related to legal services for survivors of GBV, and specifically what you all are looking for in terms of deliverables, given the agency-specific program size and then the overall program size for this.
I think what we're looking for is we're absolutely in intimate partner relationships looking for order of protections, right? And looking for, ongoing legal protections or other type of remedies in the court. If you're doing mostly trafficking or if you're doing other types of GBV, we're looking for other remedies that are applicable to that population. For example, if you're only doing trafficking, you may be doing immigration, you may be doing custody cases or things like that. We are looking for outcomes like that. How we measure it is how many what types of remedies you're getting for your clients and what types of court systems or other administrative systems you're in. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat. I'm more thinking about, are there a hard line of deliverables that you're expecting for the 4 or 5 agencies that you all will be awarding grants to, and what is that baseline?
I think for the legal services, it's been quite difficult because it takes so long to get a deliverable sometimes, and we acknowledge that. So we're looking at the caseload in comparison to what you're proposing to serve. We're looking for how many filings or how many remedies you're seeking in particular quarters and how many are coming in at the back end. It's very difficult. In the other programs in counseling and advocacy, we're looking for the ongoing counseling that has been deemed like a necessity or a need in the community. So we're looking at service plans and goals achievement in those service plans, if that makes sense. The RIA and the MDT are somewhat limited touches to survivors in very specific timeframes. So for RIA, we're looking to make sure that we know that the DV courthouse the traffic is what it is and how many sort of survivors are they touching at the courthouse? How many are they engaging with? And MDT, we know the number of referrals that they're getting, how many are they engaging, and we measure how much are actually going into services based on that engagement. Does that help?
That does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then just to add to that, we are capturing data in InfoNet and we are capturing data that you're providing us for other outcomes, but recognize that we can't drill down and really sort of track a particular survivor's journey. So we're also probably asking you for some qualitative data and storytelling in these data reports to help us communicate like the impact that these programs are having. Ashley's question in the chat. Hold on. The ranges are in the actual book at the end of the RFP. So it'll give you an idea of what we're looking for or how much you should be applying for. But I do want to say that we would like you to apply for what your program costs. The tricky thing about procurement is we could put a definitive amount down there. We can put a range, but if we end up having additional funds, I don't know how this would happen, but if we had additional funds, we can only fund what you ask for. We can't give you more. We could give you less if we don't have enough, but the sweet spot is asking for what you really need and allowing us to figure out how much we have to disperse. But you will find guidance at the end of each RFP. So as I explained, if you are a legal advocacy agency, that's all you do, or that you're based out of the courthouse, we would want you to have either a formal linkage agreement or be able to describe how, if you're working with a survivor and you have an inkling, or they've asked for ongoing counseling, that you have some referral mechanism to make sure that they are connected to an agency, a warm transfer, warm handoff to an agency that can provide them that. So technically, yes, you have to have both components, but you don't necessarily have to pay directly for the other component. Does that make sense? All right, DJ.
Hi, it's Donna from Lifespan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, forgive me if I stumbled through this question because I'm still a little confused. For the legal services for DV and GBV, you said they've been combined. So does that mean if we need to, or if we, do we have to, are we able to apply for both? Are we allowed, and would that mean separate applications?
Yeah, we have legal aid or legal societies that all they do is domestic violence, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're still eligible to apply. And then we have others that only do one other type of legal services, and it may be human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's IPV in that, or maybe not, but they're both eligible to apply. Unlike counseling and advocacy, you don't have to do them all. Or you can do them all, or a subset. Or if you're a domestic violence, sometimes there's trafficking involved, or sometimes there's, sexual assault involved, or many times there's sexual assault involved, and that's okay. So there doesn't have to be just one. You can do multiple ones, or you can just focus on human trafficking or domestic violence.
Okay.
We just want we want your proposal to show which ones you're really working in, or which ones can you do.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now Eleanor. I knew I saw Eleanor.
Hi, I was like, it's gonna be me soon. Hi, okay, I have two questions. One is something you just said, Adriana. Did I hear you right that for the counseling and advocacy, you have to do all types of GBV on that RFP?
No, that one is the same. If you predominantly only do, sexual assault, you can come in and only do sexual assault. We are still looking, obviously, for our domestic violence portfolio. They can come in and just do domestic violence. It's about having the counseling and legal advocacy if we need it, because as we know, even trafficking survivors and even sexual assault survivors need an advocate, whether it's a sexual assault advocate or SA advocate or whatever. So you need to have available for that client both.
Okay, great. And my other question was, for the community education and outreach portion of this, are there partners that DFSS is like wanting to ensure that we're engaging with, or is it kind of like we tell you what partners we would engage? Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, are
we
there
do not
Okay.
mandate that you have to work with, I don't know, the trafficking hotline.
Right.
Or the Stop It program. No, we don't mandate. But we would like to see the list of your community partners or your partners who you work with. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
And we do not have any preconceived notions of who is a great community partner. We just want to see that you have other partners that you collaborate with.
Hi, I apologize if you already said this. Is it possible for us to apply for two different areas? Like, we currently have a counseling and advocacy services grant, but we're also looking for opportunities to onboard a staff attorney. So could we apply for both?
You can apply for as many projects as you want under one or across these 5.
Awesome.
There's nothing to preclude you. We do have agencies that have 2 different types of programs, and even under counseling and advocacy, we have programs that like to apply by site or location.
Oh.
Either way is fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot to advance to the screen, but you can get my contact information and our division email if there are questions that you don't feel comfortable asking in this very small group.
There's a few questions in the chat.
Okay. Thanks, Latoya.
No problem. Would you like me to read them or do you?
Yeah, so
okay.
Tara, I answered Misha's, right? No. Yes, I did answer that one.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry if I missed it. Can you give more details about the GVP training?
Yeah,
piece
so
that you
the
were saying
training,
that you-
the training RFP, let me go back to the slide that we talked about it. The training RFP was one of the RFPs that we released in the end of 2024 and awarded the agencies just recently. So they are not programs that we're seeking applications for at this time. They have contracts until, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, through 2026. No, 2027.
2026.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
Now, all of these, all of our programs eventually come out on a cycle and we seek applicants. And then, of course, you have a very short window to apply. So, but we try to do as much outreach and communication as we can. And when they're about to come out, we email all of our partners and all of our stakeholders. So that one will probably come out again in 2026 for 2027 funding. There are also, you could probably still find it in iSupplier if you wanted to go back and look at it. Before I go on to the
Sorry,
next
I have
person.
another question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, but I just also wanted to say, do you want us to know what the training program is about?
No, I was just curious because I was encouraged to come to this for a reason, and so I was just curious about that.
So the training program was to provide training, we would fund GBV actual agencies to go out and do training, not to the general public, but to actual frontline staff, whether that be at like homeless shelters, healthcare centers, public benefit offices, things like that, to first of all, teach them what GBV is, have some insight on how to screen for GBV, and when they come across somebody that has been screened for GBV, provide them technical assistance on how to address their concerns or their incidents that have been occurring or their experiences so that they can be connected to somebody who can help them. Okay. Anna?
Thanks. Sorry. So going back to the legal services for survivors of GBV, the 118 RFP. So with that one, is that only for legal providers, or again, going back to the fact that we have social workers, would it be better to go ahead?
No. Finish your question. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, would it be better as we're writing the grant to seek, to really just focus on our legal providers and then talk about our external partnerships? Or would it be better or would it be acceptable to include our internal social workers in our TSAT, our trafficking social worker in that, even though she's not a legal provider?
I think the honest answer is, well, I would encourage you to go read both carefully, but I think you would qualify under both. You would be eligible under both. The question is, do you want to do you need the funding for legal services and do you need the funding for the social worker? Then I would apply.
Absolutely.
You can't lose for trying.
Okay. But in legal services, it is only for legal services. It is not for
in legal
other
services. You either
services.
have to directly staff the attorneys or subcontract.
Okay.
Right. You have to have control over. You have to be able to provide legal representation. Whereas in counseling and legal advocacy, you can just have your trafficking casework, or I'm sorry, your social worker is probably acting as an advocate. As long as they have the certifications for that. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to keep on.
No, I would encourage you to look at both, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would just want to share, I believe they're going to share these slides with everyone, but probably the most important thing, and in the RFP is my email address. I think the most important thing is if a question comes up later, like in the, in the middle of the night, and you think I should have asked that question, you are still able to submit your questions to us. I prefer email so that it's in writing. We will be putting together all of the questions and releasing an FAQ as part of the RFP. But also, if you have a question, we would like to be able to help you and answer that as best we can. You can reach us these both ways. But we're still able, I'm here till 4:30, so you could still ask me questions if you'd like.
And what is the deadline for asking questions or submitting questions?
I believe they have not posted the deadline for submitting questions, but they are looking at mid-May, even though the application doesn't close until June, because obviously we need time to respond to all of them and post them for everybody who is applying. I cannot stress enough, let's go back to iSupplier. It is not the most intuitive system to apply. If you're a new agency, or even if you're a repeat agency, I would go and make sure your iSupplier profile is up to date, and that you go attach whatever documents that you could attach early and submit early. And if you're having issues, there is an iSupplier help desk that can help you, and we can intervene. But if you come to me the day of, there's not much I can do. If there are no other questions, did I miss anything in the chat? You're free to drop off. I believe we have to repeat this session for anybody that comes at 3 o'clock. So you're welcome to stay with me and see if anybody joins, or you can hop off. This session has been recorded, and we're going to provide you the slides. And again, you can email us anytime. You're all welcome. Thank you. All right, Mariah, can you dig into a little bit more of what you mean by legal advocacy, like navigating the criminal justice system? A legal advocate navigates both the criminal justice system, but I'm talking mostly about filing for orders of protections or advocating at other systems, whether that be DCFS or immigration court or things like that. Does that answer your question? In your case, if you are an agency that has a drop-in center or has counseling and case management, if you have a formal MOU with a legal service provider or an agency that's connected to any of those court systems, that would suffice.